Good morning, folks. Good morning. Dr. John Taylor Kent here. It's October 8th. Not that early in the morning. I slept a lot last night. Sleep was rather deep. Dreams were pretty active, but kind of obscure. Different. Hard to bring those into current memory because they're so unusual compared to what normal life is. And they were also kind of boring in a way. Well, I woke up today to another front of the war. And this time they decided to take a jab directly at Putin. No, they didn't go after him personally, but they went after the symbol of Putin. They went after the fabulous bridge that he made quite a while back. Well, made in the Crimea to attach the Crimea to the mainland. Guess it was the longest bridge in Europe. Is that really considered Europe? Sure seems out there to me a little bit. Well, the bridge has been blown, and it was a point of pride for Putin. Nord Stream's been blown. There's also been some attacks on the railroads in Germany. So they're shutting down the ability to move corn, move grain during the harvest. So they are doing their best to sabotage everything. In case you're wondering who's behind it, think about who benefits most. And in this particular instance, I think the jackass who benefits most is in Washington, D.C. Because the more he gets to delay and maybe even postpone that November election, the longer his party stays in power. Yeah, I'm going to blame the Democrats. They're doing things that the rest of the country don't know about, don't understand, have no participation in. We have no representation anymore. And folks, you need to wake up. You need to wake up and realize the United States of America is no longer the good guys. I'm sorry to tell you that, but we've been controlled by evil for a long time. If you want to know how long we've been controlled by evil, I would have to say since the election of Woodrow Wilson and Colonel Mandel House, who was no colonel at all. He did come up with a good strategy for getting the man elected, and he promptly made sure that the guy broke his campaign promise, and they went to war. They took us over. They took over our money supply. The evil ones run the planet. We don't run it. You don't run it. I don't run it. And right now they're intent upon getting this war between what's left of the Soviet Union and what's left of the United States, because we're not who we once were either. So, you better enjoy life today. Enjoy it for what you got, for what's going on. It rained really hard here last night. It's kind of a joyous sound. Weirdly, my rain sensor didn't work in my vent, and the vent stayed open, and it kept blowing the air out. I almost left it open. I decided to close it, though. There's a seer in South Africa named Siner von Rensinger. He's the seer of a little village called von Rensinger in South Africa. He's no longer alive. He died quite a while ago. I think he passed away probably during World War II. But he was alive and active during the Boer War. He was their prophet. He was the one that told them where they could cross the rivers at. He also told them about the movement of the other troops. He saw everything in visions. His vision of covering wagons meant basically war. And I don't know how that was managed. I've tried to find out about him, but I am going to tell you a little bit about his visions. He did have a vision for the United States of America. And that vision ultimately is that we are going to be destroyed and we will never be a world power again. He described how that's going to be accomplished. He said that in World War III, whoever was on Germany's side would prevail. Well, the problem is, who's the real Germany at this point? Who is really on Germany's side? And I'm looking at it thinking the United States is busy sacrificing German industry, the German economy, the German people. They're busy destroying Germany. That's the effect of these sanctions. destroys our own people, it destroys farming around the world. It creates a famine, a food shortage. Combine that with the fact that the world is acting up a little bit right now. The Mississippi River is so low they're almost not able to ship on it yet. Here we have harvest season coming, and most of those grains, which are very heavy, are going to be shipped by barge on the Mississippi River. And it looks like that's becoming non-navigable. It's too shallow. And look at what's happened to the Euphrates River. It's all but gone. I mean, the water is gone. It is just really pretty dry. And there's other reports from the Euphrates River that are kind of scare tactics. Kind of interesting things how people try to force the Bible interpretation or present events into the Bible interpretation. I don't know if that's a sickness we all have or if it's actually a proper application or anything in between. Von Rensinger said that the Civil War would start in the middle of the country and it would break out, and while we were fighting among ourselves, we would be attacked from outside, and in 24 hours, we would lose our main weapon systems. They'd all be gone within 24 hours. I blame it all on the Democrats. Look at Woodrow Wilson. What was he? He sure as hell got us into this problem with the Federal Reserve, whereby the evil ones have penetrated our entire culture, all of our, well, they own it all. They actually figured out how to defraud us of ourselves. They've taken all our money, they've taken all the land and all the property through a series of weird bankruptcies and some really weird shenanigans that I do not understand. I don't fully understand. I doubt I ever will fully understand. But you need to understand that the money system that you have is just to enslave us. It's not to do anything else but to enslave us. And they are activating the end game at this point. I do not believe Adolf Hitler had a final solution. You cannot prove to me anywhere. You cannot prove to me by making false allegations. There is no evidence that he had a final solution. Matter of fact, he had a lot of Jews serving him, and he awarded the Iron Cross personally himself to a lot of Jewish men. So you tell me. I don't think he was against the Jews. I don't think he liked the bankers, though. But then again, it looks like he was an illegitimate offspring, if you will, of one of the famous bankers. Much like Abraham Lincoln was, by the way. I need you to understand the United States of America is about to get whacked. The Democrats would rather destroy the nation than change power through the election. So I'm not seeing any election happen. I'm seeing a disruption of that, and I'm seeing all those jackasses in power staying there in power. We are not represented. Those folks are not responsible to us. We have no republic. And in case you're wondering, when was the republic destroyed? Well, there's several major dates for major instances that each contributed a nail to the coffin. And probably the first one was March 4th, 1813. That's when the original 13th Amendment, which had been ratified, it had been passed and enacted, when they sat the attorneys in the Congress in violation of the 13th Amendment. That's a big deal. You want your country back? You reclaim the original 13th Amendment. You get rid of dual citizenship. You kick all the Israeli duals out in particular. You do not allow any man or woman of dual citizenship to have a sensitive position in the country, especially not elected positions and nor bureaucratic positions. You don't allow them to teach. You don't allow them in the professions. They have dual loyalty, and they will never be loyal to this nation. You also strip all the Bar Association members of any and all citizenship in these states, and they are thereby not electable to the other two branches of government. Why? to maintain the separation of powers. That's what the purpose of the 13th Amendment was. Why did we do that? Because the attorneys got us into the War of 1812. And I know the attorneys are going to scream when we finally reclaim that 13th Amendment that they didn't know. They didn't know what the law was. And I think we're going to have a good laugh when we sit back and tell them, well, what have you been telling us for a couple of centuries now or so? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Yeah, you can reclaim this republic, and the strategic move is to bring back the original 13th Amendment, declare the 14th and 15th Amendments null and void, especially since the 14th created what we call a new critter called a citizen of the United States. There was no such thing before that amendment. We were citizens of our states. We were landed citizens. We were under the Constitution. We're not under the Constitution today, that's for sure. Oh, another major thing occurred when Lincoln, and I don't know. I know you all say, well, how am I supposed to judge? Don't you dare judge me. All kinds of stuff. Well, hell yeah, if your action's bad, I'm going to judge it. And I'll judge you too if I have to. I'm not ashamed to do it at all. I'm tired of the prevailing brainwashing that you're not supposed to judge others. That's not Christian. Look, if you read the Bible carefully, there should be no such religion called Christianity. To be a Christian was a cuss word in the Bible. You got to get the real copy of the Bible. And that's my Bible, the proper name version of the King James Bible. Here, let me show you. Hold on, give me a second. That's my copy. Proper name version of the King James Bible. You're going to find the word Messiah throughout this. You will not see the Christ in here for good reason. It's not in the original text. You also are going to see the name of Yeshua, not Jesus. Well, there is a Jesus, but it's a different Jesus that's in the Bible. They gave you an alternative Jesus, in case you're wondering. That's who you're worshiping. His name was Yeshua. It wasn't Jesus. And there's good reason for them to give us all those little lies like being born on Christmas. All kinds of stuff to throw us off. And to be tolerant and not to judge others. And of course, they want us to avoid understanding the truth that's in the Bible and living according to the Bible. They especially don't want us to learn about the error of Balaam. You got to learn about the error of Balaam because we're pretty much fallen to it. They took us over by putting that forward. The proper name version of the King James Bible, published 2015. Yeah, pretty new. And it's got the proper name of Creator Father Yahweh, God, in it. That's in here, and that's very important. And that corrects the error that Ptolemy II did when he was in Alexandria, Egypt, translating the Bible into the Greek in about 275 BC. Now, why would anybody want to translate a Hebrew Bible for Hebrews? And it's got Aramaic in it, the common language too. Why would anybody, they're very closely related. Why would anybody want to produce a Greek Bible? I mean, it's Greek to me, right? Yeah. That's because most of the Israelites were in dispersion by 275 BC. They had been run out by the Assyrians. Read your Bible, it's in there. And about 3 or 4 incursions, however you want to view those. Some people consider it 3, some people consider it 4. Read the Bible, it's in there. The landmarks are in there as to where the Assyrians hauled us. Oh yeah, us. That's right. You're watching my channel, the odds are you're Israelite or part Israelite. Hell, even the blacks in America are part Israelite. You all have part of the claim to it. But the problem is that you were brought over by the evil guys, and so some of you have got the evil satanic DNA in you. You need to understand the truth of the Bible. It does tell you quite truthfully, in wonderful language, what's happening. This is modern English. So the syntax is proper for us to be able to understand it better. The syntax of the old English was reversed, and it's harder for us to understand. So what we expect He ordered words to be slightly reversed. And why is that? That's because we are Israelites, and Israelites wrote from right to left. English is written left to right. So things got flipped over. Probably about the time of the Welsh people got involved in the language. They named that pillow stone Leofail, which is spelled the same way front ways or reverse. Same doggone word. You want to support my channel, you want to free your mind up, you want to get educated, you want to educate yourself, you buy this book. There's a link in the description. Buy it. Get the big print. You don't even need reading glasses to read it. That's what I've got here. I mean, this is nice print. Here, take a look at this thing. Well, you can see my highlighting there. Okay, that's probably close enough to focus a little bit. 14-point print. I don't have to wear reading glasses to read it. Well, it's getting to the point where I do have to now. But when I first got this Bible, I could read it in the twilight. Didn't need reading glasses. And that wasn't that long ago that I got this, as you can tell. I think I got this about 2019. The prices on these things are the lowest you're going to find by taking my link. It's lower than if you go to the publisher's website. He did that as a favor to me. And I'm trying to sell this one product, and that's all I got to sell. I want to turn you into Bible readers. No, I don't want to turn you into flower-picking pansies. I don't want to see that at all. I'd like to see you out there with a battle axe. Because Yahweh God said, "You are my battle axe," referring to Israel. And there's nothing like a bunch of pissed-off Saxons. Anglo-Saxons. Isaac's sons, Saxons. Where do you think the Saxons came from? There's all kinds of stuff to learn. You really need to use this as your yardstick. This will give you the basis. It's not just the basis for all Western civilization, but it's the basis by which you can straighten out your thinking and straighten out your life and get the most out of life. And you can understand who the bad guys are when you understand this story. My God. I think when George Washington passed, Thomas Jefferson wrote an obituary saying, "A great man in Israel has passed." It's because our founders knew who they were. They knew they were descendants of the Israelites. We weren't no damn Gentiles grafted in by grace. Those people who tell you that are liars. I know. Our pastors are a bunch of lying jackasses. Oh, and by the way, the book of Isaiah talks about our lying pastors. Yeah, they're in here. Isaiah, writing about pastors. Why does that sound so odd? That's because they didn't have no damn pastors back then. They had priests. But yet, the word is pastor in the Bible. It's another one of those words that needs to be chased down to really get good understanding. So this thing that's happening over in Russia is us fighting our brothers. And I know you guys think the Russians are the bad guys. They've always been the bad guys. It's pretty easy. We know they're the bad guys. We were told that since before we were born. Well, I got news for you. They're our brothers and our sisters. And they came to our aid. And we would not be a country today if it wasn't for the Tsar of Russia, or the Tsars, I should say. The most obvious help was during the Civil War, in which the Tsar lent Abraham Lincoln his navy, stationed his navy in San Francisco and New York Harbor, and kept the rest of the jackasses out of Europe who were trying to break us up at the time. You know, the Rothschilds with their banks and separate nations, and the separate nations they represented. They were going to divide us up back then. That's what the purpose of that war was. It wasn't about slavery. Dumbasses. It was about something more than that. And it's hard to judge Lincoln because he might have taken the only way out he had in all this. You see, Lincoln was a weird dude. He was a 3-race in one. He was a 3-in-1 man. He was all 3 races. He was a white Jew. All right, little Caucasian in there. Sad thing is, a little fallen satanic DNA in there too, most likely, because he was one of the false Jews, one of the Edomites. You don't know what an Edomite is? Well, it's in the Bible. Edom's in here. And the other word, the Greek word for it is Idumean. You don't know what an Idumean is? It's in here. Herod the Great was an Idumean. What did that jackass try to do? So Abraham Lincoln was also Native American. For you red bloods out there, redskins, whatever you want to call yourselves today. And he was part black. I don't like saying African American because I know a lot of white people from Africa. It just doesn't fit. Man, this political correctness is a bunch of bullshit. So he was part Negro, part Native American, which is part Mongoloid, in case you're wondering, and part Jew from his father, A.A. Springs, which is short for Springsteen, which was one of the bastard offspring of a Rothschild and the housemaid. Rothschilds were famous for that sort of thing. So he also was part Adamic and part Satanic. I'm sorry, boys and girls, to burst your bubble. He wasn't called Honest Abe without reason. He was a very dishonest man. He knew he occupied the White House illegally, and he foisted off his view of the Republic upon us. The Lincolnian Republic is not a republic. Jefferson is the father of the Republic. If you get down to it, Jefferson understood the Republic better than anybody else. And by the way, the South was right. It was proper for them to leave. And they didn't form their own constitution. They took ours. Not only that, they improved on it. They decided to make the presidency one term, 6-year term. They also had a long-standing history of, well, a congressman can only represent so many people. So when the population exceeds that amount, then you got to have another congressman. And they forced other states to come into existence, primarily because there were too many people for a congressman to represent. So they were prim and proper in their formation of our political structure, of our rule, of our self-rule. They were pretty smart. And by the way, most of your 2-term presidents came out of the South before the Civil War. Nobody from the North was re-elected to a 2nd term. Nobody. All right, I'm probably wrong on that. Go prove me wrong, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to see it. Yeah, I want you to get my Bible. I want you to read my Bible because you're going to have to wake up spiritually, psychologically before you can even deal with what's coming. What's coming down the pike is pretty bad. According to Steiner, we're going to be destroyed as a nation and we'll never be a superpower again. According to Steiner, the next superpower is Germany. I don't really like that too much because I kind of like my nation. But we've screwed up. We let the evil ones inside. We let them take us over. And they now occupy the Democrat Party. A bunch of communists. And they're going to take us apart because they don't want to give up power. You see, you're not in a republic and you're not even in a democracy. And at this point, if you want it back, you might as well take up arms because it's the only way you're going to get it back. You know, as I said, you can vote your way into communism, which we have today in the United States. We got more communism here than they have in Russia. But you can't vote your way out of it. You get to shoot your way out of it. And in case you're wondering how to do that, rather than go about shooting, you do what Jefferson did. Jefferson wrote about how to recover the republic in case we lost it. And we've definitely lost it. He said, basically, you take it over county at a time and you don't let anybody from the outside in. If they don't believe the way you do in the republic, the Constitution, you don't let them in. And how do you keep them out? You shoot their asses. It happened in Mississippi. I think it was called the County of Jones or Jonesboro. Jones Revolution or something. The guys were not well, let's put it this way. Don't follow their example. But they were the only county in the southern states that wasn't ransacked. Why? Because they kept everybody else out. They just wouldn't let them in. So, you want to become a republic again? Then you better take your county over. You better get everybody convinced to take up arms and not let anybody else in. That's the only way you can recover it that I know that's going to be halfway decent and work. And in case you're wondering, you get rid of all the amendments, install the original 13th Amendment, and start from there. And if you want to modify it, then look to what the South did. Look to what the South proposed. They were the smartest and the brightest. By the way, it was a war of jealousy and envy. The highest paid population In the north was the state of Connecticut. And I'm trying to remember, but I think it was like $721 or $713 per year average income for a citizen of Connecticut. Whereas the state of Mississippi was the richest state in the South. Guess how much money the average Mississippi man brought in? $2,100. Actually, it was more than $2,100. 3 times the amount. There was a jealousy and there was a taxation upon the South that wasn't proper. And that's what got us here. Oh, we also had the help of the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits in the South. They helped manipulate that whole damn thing together. And in case you're wondering, you want to know who the bad guys are? You go to the city of London. Not London as you know it, or as most people know it, but the little tiny city of London inside. It's run by the Crown, a corporation. I believe that would be the corporation that helped establish these colonies. Oh, what was that called? Anyway, I'm not good on names like I used to be. But there were a couple of different corporations that were chartered way back then to take over things and run the world and grab it up for the crown, the Queen or the King of England. Everything in this country has been disturbed. Even the culture for the lower sections of our, shall we say, of our population. Even that's been tainted. So even the traditions that are in those lower echelons, we'll call it, even those have been destroyed. What you're going to find is the country is the myths that you've been told about the country are just that, myths. We are quite a bit different than what you think. You all want to argue about money, and I'm going to tell you there is no money. You want to know what money is, you go to the Bible. The Bible will teach you and tell you what money is. What we're fighting over, and what we think of as money today, is actually the system of enslavement. This is the Babylonian money magic. This come out of Babylon. The Swiss have a lot to do with it, and the Egyptians have something to do with it as well from a long time ago. And you have the people that started the Federal Reserve System that own us all. Yeah. Isn't it horrible having to work so hard so they can be supported for nothing? Money for nothing? No, there is no money in the country. And you have the time when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 71. Before that, the gold standard was kind of established in a twisted theft. The government confiscated the gold and paid $16.50 an ounce for it. And then immediately after they owned all the gold, jacked the price of the gold up. Talk about swindling. And caused a lot of trouble for us. You may think you own your property, but you pay rent. When we were founded, did we pay rent? When we were founded, did you pay taxes on your property? If you have a right to personal ownership, a right to an estate, if that's part of your natural rights, then how is it anybody can tax you upon a right? You can't be taxed upon a right. Although we have the ATF taxing people with their irregular, it's a bunch of frauds, but the ATF needs to be done away. That NFA is nothing but a big fraud, and they're making a lot of money off that. And yes, you better get your guns ready because the society's going to come apart and nobody's going to be there. You're not going to be able to find a police officer, and you're not going to be able to find a fireman. In case you're wondering, it's in here. On that day, you will look for a police officer and you will not find one. You will look for a fireman and you will not find one. They're both in here. Oh, and there's this little verse in here I still don't understand. You'll throw your gold and your silver out in the streets. Can't eat those, can you? Folks, they're setting us up. The evil ones go by this book too. They use it as a playbook. They believe that they have the license to do whatever God says to do in here, whatever God sentences us to do. They think they're the ones that are the executioners for the rest of us. And yes, they will execute as many as they can just to stay in power. They're going to do everything they can to avoid this November election. And plus, they'll steal it on top of it. I think the time for court actions are pretty much gone. I think the time to talk is pretty much gone. They will not allow us to have victory at the ballot box. And so they're going to force us to be using the cartridge box. In case you don't know what the cartridge box is, it's a part of a firearm. It contains the ammunition. And that's the cartridge box. And you're going to be forced to pick it up. Why? Because they want to genocide us. They're going to allow more criminals here. And the whole purpose of this invasion is to throw off the electorate, the foundations of the nation, and empower the Democrats so they can make their communism the bona facto law of the land and do away with the Constitution and kill off most of us white folks. That's right. They want to kill us. Don't kid yourself. They keep talking about white supremacism. Do you see white supremacism? I don't. I hear about it, but I certainly don't see it. I've traveled the nation. Yeah, I've run into some weird people, that's for sure. But I don't see any organized white supremacism. I see organized Jewish supremacism. I see black supremacism. I even see American, Indian supremacism. You know, I've hung out with all groups. They're doing their best to stir the pot up and get us ready so that they can cut us off of our food and our energy. And so that we'll kill each other off. They set brother against brother in the World Wars I and World War II. And they told you about the Holocaust of 6 million Jews. It did not happen. There were more Jews alive at the end of World War II than went into at the beginning of World War II. They did just fine. Were there deaths? Yes. Yes, but the figures are about 285,015, I think is what it was. And that's the American Red Cross number, but the German Red Cross number, and I think the Germans are more accurate and more honest and more noble people. I'll go with the German number of 385,015 or 387,015, whatever it is. Yes, that's a bad loss. That's a tremendous loss. But don't kid yourselves. How many people were destroyed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? More. More importantly, how many people were destroyed in Dresden? The unnecessary, unneeded firebombing of a civilian population for a solid week. Talk about hell on earth and talk about an inferno and talk about a Holocaust. A conservative estimate is 400,000 women, children, and old men died in Dresden. That's your Holocaust. Oh, I almost forgot. How could I forget the 66 million Christians, white Christians, that were Holocausted in the Siberian camps in Russia? How could I forget about the fact that the Bolshevik Jews, which came from Manhattan into Russia, and killed the Tsar and his family and stole all the gold and brought it back to our bankers here? How can you and I hide from the fact that at least 66 million were killed in horrific ways? Most of them were killed with knives. They weren't even shot. Some of the weird stuff they did, I haven't read about. I don't want to read about, but go read Solzhenitsyn. I'm sure he's documented it. Because a lot of those things, they actually didn't use guns. They used knives so that there would be more bloodshed and more suffering. And they did weird sex acts while doing that stuff. I mean, that's just some of the most bizarre stuff on earth, but that's what they did. They're an ugly people. They got the satanic DNA from their father Cain. Where did he get it from? From his father, Gadriel. Gadriel's not mentioned in here. But from Gadriel, we get the name God. God. So they put God throughout this Bible and took Yahweh's name out. So they got you all worshiping Gadriel, the father of the devil himself, actually, who fathered Cain, who murdered his half-brother Abel, was kicked out of the garden, married women in the land of Nod. Lorraine, quiet. Married women in the land. So his children were half Mongoloid, 1/4 Adamic, Caucasoid, and 1/4 fallen angelic DNA from Gadriel. They became the Canaanites. That's good girl, quiet. Good girl, quiet. Very good girl. I got you. Okay, folks, this is a pretty packed one. I hope you'll share this. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll like this video. I'm starting to pick up some likes. Well, actually, I'm not picking up many likes. I am not getting many comments either, but I am getting more views. It seems like when I mention other great men, you all go after and view me because of that. So far, my most highly viewed video was on Jordan Peterson. I gave an answer, a second answer to that on my other channel, Awakening Israel. It does not have the views. I wish I'd have just started with one channel, because then I would concentrate my efforts, ensure success on this channel, and then move forward with it. The reason for Awakening Israel is because we focus more on scripture there, more upon spiritual, more upon the Bible, the history, and the law that was given to us at Mount Sinai. We focus on it more there. The problem is they really do overlap. And you really, and I really, we are targeted by the evil one and his children. They run the United States of America today. And don't kid yourselves. Your last president was a jackass as well, controlled by those jackasses. He was funded by them. He was put in office by them. And he stole land from Syria and gave it to Israel. They now call the Golan Heights the Trump Heights. He was an Israel firster, just like your current president. None of them stands up for the United States of America. No, not one of them. None of them is an America first. We haven't had an America first president for a long time. Probably since the time of the creation of the Bull Moose Party, which didn't succeed putting their man in office. Probably haven't had a good president since Theodore Roosevelt. None of them during my lifetime have been any good. Not even the last one. It wasn't that good by him. He covered up the Kennedy assassination even further. He misled us about 9/11 and covered up the truth about that. You need to understand, the enemy has the United States of America in a stranglehold. That's right. You and I, our vote doesn't matter. They give us, they're two different jackasses to choose from. They control them both. They own them both. I don't know any way to get this country back. If you know a way to get it back, let me know in the comments. Went long this morning. I apologize for that. May Yahweh bless. Dr. John Taylor Kent, over and out.